I don't know how to start this particular episode. So I mean, I'll start with shameless self-promotion. My new book, Trauma and Tea, Essays on Trauma Recovery and Growing Up the Hard Way, available in stores and wherever you get your books, February 3rd. So, feel free to take a look for it. I'm so proud of this book. It's hardcover. Like I said before, but check this out. I got a cool little dust jacket here. A little author photo with a bit of a write-up in there. And then on the other side of the dust jacket, I got the other books that I've written. And they're available now. I am really, really stoked with this thing. Very, very proud of it. Comes out February 3rd. Wherever you get your books. Okay, so, there's a few things I want to talk about today. A few different things that I came across on the old interwebs. The interwebs is a very weird place, isn't it? It's a strange place. If people aren't yelling at each other and trying to tell each other how right they are, they're usually yelling at, somebody else for something. I came across something that I want to talk about from the perspective of a veteran. I was in the military for 6.5 years, as many of you may know. For those of you who are just coming to the content for the very first time, welcome. Thank you so very much for being here. This is Unwritten Chapters. This is my Unwritten Chapters hoodie, actually. I'm wearing merch today. I actually don't sell merch, so it's kind of one of a kind. Just thought it was kind of cool to make a hoodie for myself, and has a kind of positive message on the back of the shirt for people that see it out in the wild. I wanted to talk to you guys today about something. It was a TikTok video. That's always a bad way to start, isn't it? It was a TikTok video. I came across this TikTok, and it's from another author, so I feel like it's relevant to the podcast. But he brought up this amazing point that I think, it made me think. It made me pause and take thought. And so I'm gonna show it to you here. This guy here, author Jason K. Pargin. Anyway, that's his social media handle there, but I'm going to let him do the talking. But first, a word from our sponsor. And by sponsor, I mean me. And by me, I mean about my book again. This one, the one I showed you like 2 seconds ago. This one here. Yeah. Let's talk about it. This is Unwritten Chapters, a podcast about the stories we don't always tell out loud. From life on the front lines as a paramedic and military veteran to wrestling with trauma, addiction, and recovery, and the strange beauty of just being human. This is raw, honest conversation about the messy parts of life that shape us. If you're ready for truth without a filter, well, then you are in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for listening to that again. I do appreciate it. Being a self-published author, man, it's tough. You got to get your own stuff out there. You got to, promote, push. I apologize, but I appreciate you for sticking with me through this. If you're going to get a copy of the book, leave me a comment down below and write pre-ordered. That would be awesome. No pressure, but if you do, you're my favorite persons, whatever. So this video blew me away. If you look in the two pictures here, you'll see 1990, which is the house from Home Alone, and then evidently, according to this guy, the picture beneath is also the same house, however, in modernity, right? It's updated to modern times. So I want you to listen to this, and we're going to talk about this. This is this theory. I'm going to call it, it's not the Mandela effect. This is the monochromatic theory. So just watch this.
Why has all of the color gone out of the world? I see memes like this constantly comparing the same house in 1990 to present day. But I've also seen this with cars, where there's a comparison with cars in the past, you had every color of the rainbow, where modern day it's white, black, gray.
Dude, this is where it blew me away, because I was like, man, the bottom picture, that's exactly every car park ever that I can picture in my mind now. But it's so true because, yeah, there used to be vibrant colors everywhere. Like, you'll still see a color here and there, but for the most part, it's not like this. This is wild.
Or fast food restaurants, old school McDonald's.
This is a big one.
Versus the depressing gray modern one.
Yeah.
Or in film, where you have the trend of taking old colorful animated movies and doing CGI versions that are all brown. I saw this post complaining about the costumes in The Odyssey. It's a historical epic where everybody's dressed in gray and brown. Where once upon a time that genre was exploding with color. I'm posting this around the holidays where now the dominant color...
This is exactly what my tree looks like, by the way. If I think of it, I'll post a picture of it. This is exactly what our tree looks like right now. Now, usually we decorate it, but when it's out of the box, when you first get it erected, this is what it looks like.
For Christmas lights is just white. Or if you look at somebody's photo album from the 1970s, their tree...
Do you guys remember the tinsel?
Big colorful bulbs.
All the tinsel hanging off.
You really can't find a consensus in terms of why this has happened. Like this interior design trend that people call millennial gray. I've heard theories when people are remodeling houses or flipping them to sell, that those are just the most neutral colors and have the broadest appeal. But why does that have the broadest appeal? And it's the same thing with cars. The fact that cars are less colorful, this is not just anecdotal. Lots of people have charted it out. And if you try to find out why, people say, oh, it's the greed of these car makers and dealers. They know that white will sell, so that's what they put on the lot. And it's like, okay, but why did green stop selling entirely? Why is it that people only want red for sports cars? With fast food restaurants, people have said that it's because the customers got older because fewer people have kids. So McDonald's used to really lean into appealing to kids with the clown mascot.
Which is a great, observation, right? They really good at Chuck E. Cheese, McDonald's, KFC, right? They had the California raisins. You remember those things? The California raisins? They had those things kicking around for a while. And, the California raisins, man, those are creepy as hell. Now, when you find them in the wild, when you find like old pictures and stuff of them, it's creepy. It's really, really creepy. But I remember those things. I had them all, man. I had the whole band. The California raisins. They were like a band of raisins, I guess, right? And they don't really have it. Like McDonald's still has the Happy Meal, right? But and it's usually tied to like the toys are usually tied to like a big movie coming out, some sort of epic adventure like Jurassic Park for a little while. This past year and a bit. But for the most part, yeah, it's very, very different now. It really isn't tied to kids anymore, or at least it doesn't seem like it. And so, yeah, it's really strange that it's gone that way. But yeah, it gets stranger.
But is that true of Taco Bell? Back in the 90s, was Taco Bell a place where little kids went? Because
that also reminds me of Saved by the Bell, by the way. Can I go back here? Yeah. This whole thing reminds me of Saved by the Bell, where the cafeteria they sat in. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw this. Now, I understand Taco Bell did look like this. I get that. I've been into a couple Taco Bells that look like this. Aging myself hugely here, but I've been into a few that look like this, and I remember it. But yeah, now they're trying to. Now it looks like fine dining. Bell. Like, what is this? That's Taco Bell. That's where you go to order pre-shit before you shit. Like that's, and they have like the wood paneling, and it's all regal and opulent.
It's now morphing into this, the gray and the wood paneling.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like all of these are dancing around a broader consumer preference for less color in everything, and it may relate to the fact that, at least in my eyes, I perceive this as being a wealthier person's house than this. Like somehow I've been trained that if I went into a restaurant that had this color scheme, I would not assume that it is a fancy restaurant. Where the reason they're going to this is that it is perceived as being more upscale even though they're serving the same food. And this to me looks like a rich person's Christmas tree. It looks more sophisticated.
When he said that, the rich person's, that's where he really got me, because I remember back in the day when you would watch TV shows about blue collar people, their trees would look a lot like mine did when I was a kid. We had those big bulbs on there, the colorful bulbs, Technicolor bulbs, and those long strands of tinsel. It was like the tree from A Christmas Story, right? Blue collar, not wealthy, not rich, just very middle of the road. And then all the white stuff, all the sterility really was tied to rich people. So, I mean, you might have something here.
And this does read to me as the film for a more intellectual, sophisticated consumer, where this to me reads as cheap or garish. But I didn't come out of the womb feeling like that. I was trained to think that way. And I honestly don't know why, and I definitely don't know why we think that children need a more colorless version of Moana. If you have a theory, I'd be eager to hear it. Why has all of the color gone out?
Yeah, pretty fascinating overall as to why that's the case. I wish I had the answers. I don't have the answers. I wish I did. Oh, I'm getting messages here. Let's just get rid of that. There we go. We don't need messages popping up on the screen. Yeah, I mean, you know, I wonder if it is partly training. You know, they've trained us to think that those more sterile colors, those more bland whites, blacks, browns, those really sort of just ordinary colors are tied to regal, right? And opulence and affluent things. You know, you saw those big houses in Beverly Hills and they're all huge, but they're generally all white and cream colored or browns. Like in the 2000s, I bought my first home in 2009, 2010, and it was all the browns, right? You walk in and the walls were brown, the carpet, if there was carpet, was brown, but it was dark hardwood. The countertops were granite, but it was kind of a darker granite, and the paneling was all wood. Everything was wood and darker brown wood. And you know, that was kind of the hallmark of the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And you know, I wonder if that has just persisted through to everything else. But I also wonder, like, is it cheaper for manufacturers to, when they're making vehicles and when they're doing that, is it cheaper for them to just paint them white, black, silver, you know, off-white, gray? Is that cheaper than adding the reds and the greens and the blues and the? Because again, you still find blue cars, right? They're either older or it's not as a vibrant blue, right? They're still kind of watered down colors. They're not like these really eye-catching, piercing greens like you see in like Fast and Furious or something, right? The very first one, not Fast and Furious 44, but the original one. You don't really see those in too many places. And I you know, this guy's content, I listened to this thing and I was like, holy crap, like I was blown away. I really started thinking about it. Let's see, like, do you have any thoughts on the matter? If you do, send me a message or put some comments down below of what you remember versus now what you think. Because I'm curious. I don't know. I don't know when it changed, and I don't know when my mindset changed. Right? I don't specifically remember thinking that Technicolor meant poor or impoverished. Right? It was just kind of, for me, it was kind of a thing of the 90s. It was kind of a thing of the 80s. Right? The bleed out. I was born in 83, and so kind of grew up in the 90s. There was still those vibrant colors there. I had a Taco Bell t-shirt. I have a Taco Bell t-shirt. My buddy Steven got me a Taco Bell t-shirt, and he drew over it with a logo that says Pizza Hut. And the reason he did that is because if here in Canada, if you watch Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, great movie, by the way. Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, Denzel. Could you imagine him in that role? Wesley Snipes, Sylvester Stallone, great action movie. But the beginning, like the first iteration of that movie came out, Taco Bell was sort of the big place to go. They made fun of it. It was kind of a play because, you know, Taco Bell is basically diarrhea in a bag, but it was their opulent thing. But because of licensing and all these other things, the version you get on streaming now, they've dubbed it all. So when they say Taco Bell, it says Pizza Hut. And like, it's so funny, man. Pizza Hut. And so it's all dubbed, and like the whole time they're talking about it, Pizza Hut, and on the windows, you can see the Taco Bell logos, but it says Pizza Hut. It's so funny. And so he found an old Taco Bell shirt, and they drew over it with the logo of Pizza Hut, and he gave it to me one year for Christmas, which was hilarious. I love that shirt. Yeah. So I don't know when that changed. Our world does seem to change, though, right? As things do. But I don't know when specifically that changed, and why we look at things such as sterile colors, right? Like the naturals, the browns, and all that. We look at that as sophistication. I'm not sure why that's the case. I don't have the answers for you, but that video really made me think. And it's not the first time I've heard the theory. I did hear it on a previous podcast that I was listening to back when I was trying to go to sleep one night. I heard another guy talk about it, and I thought it was interesting then too. And then I woke up and didn't really think much of it, and then I saw this video and it reminded me of it, and then this guy made some really great points, and I was like, yeah. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Oh, I've already gotten rid of him here. Okay. The other thing I wanted to bring up was a debate here between a guy named Andrew Wilson and I don't know who the female is. Now, he's on a podcast. I don't really like the podcast particularly. I think it's called What's Up or something. What's it called here? Whatever podcast. Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson isn't really somebody I subscribe to. I do appreciate certain aspects of his debating style. Those aspects that I appreciate are his desire to define terms, because I think defining terms is really important when it comes to trying to have a real discussion about contentious topics. But I thought we could listen to a little bit of this, because he's talking to a female, and he's talking about females in the military and females having power in society. And I think it'd be kind of interesting to kind of weigh in on it, not only to critique what he's saying, but also to kind of listen to the back and forth, and also kind of just have a discussion about it amongst ourselves too. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a listen to that here and see how this all plays out. But this is Andrew Wilson, and I am so sorry that I don't know this young lady's name. Ignore the title up top where it says challenges feminist. Those are just stupid titles that get clicks on the interweb. But I think she holds her own. She has a reasonable stance. There are certain things I disagree with about what she says, and there are certain things with Andrew that I disagree with, and we'll get into that as we listen.
If a woman is meets certain requirements.
They don't meet the requirements, because you have to carry the ammo, and you have to.
So right there, immediately, now maybe he's just talking about U.S. specifically. I don't know. But in the Canadian military, when females get in, there's different standards as far as physical fitness standards, like doing the push-ups and the sit-ups and all that stuff. Those are chin-ups too, different standard. However, the gear issued to them is the exact same gear that's issued to me, to any other soldier in the military, and they carry their own kit, they carry their own ammo, they carry their own weapon, they do all the things. I served in the military with a number of really, really strong and tough females. One female I served with, I don't want to use her name on the podcast here because she's a Vancouver PD member, and obviously works in a very dangerous field. But yeah, so she deployed to Afghanistan once, if not twice. Worked in very, very difficult roles as a medic and as a soldier, and then came to, when she got out of the military, became a VPD member, which is also a very, very, very difficult role, a very, very physical role, a very, very dangerous role. And she has thrived in those positions. The reason she has thrived in those positions isn't because standards are being lowered for her. They're not being lowered. She is meeting and exceeding those standards because females have the ability to do that, the same as men have the ability to do certain things that other men can't. They kind of touch on that here, but I want us to interject in this first part and kind of shoot Andrew down where he says they're not meeting the standards. Yes, they are. The standards that are outlined in the physical fitness doctrine, they're absolutely meeting those standards. Even if the push-ups and the sit-ups and the generic generic standards are different amongst men and women, the job itself, the things that they have to do post those things are absolutely 100% equal, and they do.
Carry the equipment, and you
I
have to
think
carry
this
it.
woman's strong enough to carry those things.
Then why is it that we can't ever seem to get a woman who can be a Navy SEAL?
That's a huge jump, right? She immediately kind of called him on it, and now he is going to the extreme, right? He doesn't concede. He doesn't say, okay, yeah, you're right. That's true. However, what about, right? He doesn't go to a different segue. He's trying to conflate the two things. He's trying to conflate the beginning part of what he said, the generalization, and she came out with a reasonable debunking of it or a reasonable challenge to it. And then he flips to the extreme, which is going to be even harder to debunk and to challenge, which is then he's going to use that as a way of saying, see, I'm right. See?
We've never had one.
Well, that's some pretty extreme. Most men cannot become Navy SEALs.
I agree, but only
Most
men.
men.
But only men can. And when it comes to
No, only men have. Not only men can, only men have. There's a big difference between can and have. Do I think that positions like Navy SEALs and other special forces things are more geared toward men and have men probably more successful in those roles? Absolutely, right? There is a difference between man and woman, male and female. I'm not here to get into the big T word debate. That's not what this is. There is very real differences between man and woman, and certain things are going to be more advantageous for certain things. Only models, for example, or OnlyFans. A woman is likely to make a hell of a lot more money on OnlyFans than a male is to make on OnlyFans. Why is that? Well, you tell me. I think it's pretty obvious.
the idea of frontline combat, they have to lower. So women can be in the infantry, that's true, but they get lower standards.
Lower fitness standards, lower fitness scores on things like, we call it PCP or PSP, PCP, Jesus, PSP in the military. Those are the professional standards, professional standards, something, or physical. Yeah, I don't know. I'm talking at my ass now. But those things, yes, those things, you have different benchmarks. Men and women have different benchmarks. So do age groups among those things. So a man who is in his teens and 20s compared to a guy who's in his 40s and 50s, still within the military, have different benchmarks to reach within the fitness standards of the military. When those standards are finished, when that test is done, the job itself entails that you carry the same thing. They don't have female equipment versus male equipment as far as like battle, full fighting order and battle rattle, right? It's the same thing. They're still doing it. So again, a sweeping generalization, kind of a sneaky, underhanded thing to do in relation to having honest and constructive dialogue, in my opinion.
Women get lower standards in the military than men get.
Well, I think if you are,
Again, only within certain things. Test scores, when it comes to intellectual stuff, it has to be equal, and it is equal. Pilots and stuff have to score certain benchmarks, and other specialized trades have to reach certain benchmarks. Shooting, like he referred to infantry, female infantrymen have to achieve the same benchmarks as men in order to stay within the infantry. So it's a sweeping generalization that's not exactly fair. Now, again, he's speaking to U.S. here because he lives in the United States, but I don't see too much of a difference between U.S., U.K., and other Western nations as far as what women can do within the militaries.
polling for whoever in defense of your country or homeland, you would take anyone who might
But
have
even
slightly
if,
lower standards.
I guess even if I grant that we could have some very small percentage of women who are capable of doing this, and maybe we even field them.
It's not a small percentage. There is a lot of women in the modern military. It is not a small percentage. It is a small to no percentage that are in specialized roles within like the Navy SEALs, for example. You can't equate those two because they're not even equatable to men who generally serve in the military. Being CSOR, for example, Canadian Special Operations Regiment, the amount of soldiers that join the military comparative to the amount of soldiers that join the military and become CSOR are so different that they're not comparable. The guys that become CSOR, they really go above and beyond to get into those roles. Not every man, just because they're men, can get into those roles. There's a lot of different factors that go into play here. So again, this is just another kind of verbiage, another words that he uses to undermine the authenticity of their engagement here, in my opinion, again.
Because the vast majority, the overwhelming majority, don't even have the potential. They don't even have the potential to do this. It seems to me.
Again, incorrect. Because so he's using this. The conversation they're having is about military service, frontline combat roles, and he is using the generalization. Now, he may be referring to Navy SEALs, but I don't believe so, because they've kind of transitioned beyond that back into the general arena of discussion about women in the military and in frontline roles. I could tell you that I know a plethora of women that served in the Canadian Armed Forces that were in the frontline roles. They did a lot of things that men don't have to think about as far as caring for themselves in the field. The inherent risks involved with being a female in a frontline combat position, and if they were to be kidnapped or whatever, the risks are very different for females and men. I knew a few females that took a shot, like a needle, so that they did not have ovulation cycles while they were overseas, because they just didn't want to deal with that headache of being overseas while they were dealing with all these other things. So, the women I know that have served in the Canadian military and that have been overseas, they are tough as coffin nails, man. They are a different breed. And so I don't think that, I don't necessarily know that Andrew's trying to argue in bad faith, but I definitely disagree with the way he's going about it and the jumps from being very specific, i.e. Navy SEAL, to generalization, i.e. they. I don't enjoy that tactic.
That it's not just that women can vote to send their men off to fight.
It's not just women, men vote. It's not, so that I understand the conversations about men and women, but men vote for that as well. Men who don't join the military, men who have no desire to join the military, men who have no will to fight, still vote on whether or not to send other men off to fight on their behalf. Or, if they don't think it's on their behalf, they still vote for those things. So again, not a really good faith argument to start with.
By a simple majority. Just by a simple majority, they could do this by electing the politicians in office that have their pro-war stance, perhaps. And that's...
Why does it have to be pro-war? It doesn't have to be.
And it seems very obvious to me that that's very fundamentally unfair.
But women...
He calls it very fundamentally unfair, but the men that vote for things as well, they vote for parties that have say over women as well, i.e., the abortion debate that runs rampant around election cycles. Men have a say in that. Men get to vote in that. Men have there's fallout if they vote a certain way and that elected official gets in. Women then feel the after effect of that. Vice versa when it comes to what he's talking about, when it comes to war and things like that. They don't have to be pro-war in order for the people that they are voting in to eventually, under circumstances, send them off to war. It's to me, there are issues that affect both sides, and depending on who you elect, they have fallout on subjective sides. So this is not unique to just being female versus male.
Men are in the military, and
in support roles.
The standards.
No, they pass standards which are lesser than men's standards.
Certain standards, certain things, and it's not about being less, it's about being attenuated. Like I said before, age groups have different standards and thresholds to meet with respect to service. Why is that the case? Well, it's because our bodies change as we age. So this is not just strictly a man versus female thing. It's I've always found that argument really, really, really myopic.
In fact, I can have Brian pull it up if you'd like to see it, but they have a different...
Sure, yeah. No, I'm fully aware
Yeah.
of that, but there's still competent, and support roles are still important.
I agree.
And
That's
also, you don't have to be on the front lines to be killing people. My aunt flew helicopters in the Army, and she was, participating in killing people.
Well, there's another reason why you don't want them there. It's not just because of the capability of combat.
Is it resources?
Nope.
So he's going to talk about kind of what I alluded to earlier. So trigger warning for those who have been impacted by SA. But this he kind of brings this up, and he uses the term SA as well. So just wanted to give you a trigger warning prior to kind of just going forward with this, because I know Andrew Wilson is a bit of a contentious figure, and so depending on who's listening to this, I wanted to give you fair warning. He is going to talk about this, and he is going to mention it.
It's because your enemy will capture them and they'll SA them, and then they'll send them home pregnant in order to demoralize your population.
Again, he's using, yes, these things do happen. Yes, these things are part of the egregious nature of warfare. He's using extremes while trying to have a general discussion, right? And that's where I find this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. We don't have to listen to the rest of what he had to say here, but that's kind of what I wanted to bring up. I find that today, especially in modern discourse, especially when it comes to online stuff, I find that a lot of people argue to be right as opposed to listening to what's being said. They argue to be right as opposed to listening to what's being said. And I find that when, discussions like this happen, a lot of times we use generalities and then insert specificities to bolster our argument and try to make it sound equal, right? You want to have a discussion about females and males in the military. That can absolutely be done. And yeah, you could talk about certain specificities. You can. But you cannot conflate those specificities with generalities. That's where things become murky. That's where things become dangerous. That's where things become disingenuous, intentionally or unintentionally. So, I am a kind of step parent, I guess you would say, to two young females who are going to be emerging into the world soon, one before the other. One is almost 15 years old, so she's kind of at the cusp now of transitioning from being kind of a kid and a child into an adolescent / young adult, and starting to kind of see the world and see certain things work, and then starting to figure out their own foothold in the world and what they believe and what they think and feel. And the other one is still got some time, but is kind of entering that pubescent stage now where things are going to start changing. And so her worldviews are going to start morphing as well. I've never had to think of the world with having young females that I genuinely love and care about on my mind before. It's never been something that I've had to think of because I was never in a position to be a parent or to be a step parent or a guardian, what have you. But that is the case now. And they're going to enter the world. They're going to meet people who are, genuinely curious about their positions within the world and have very strong opinions about their positions in the world. Depending on what they do for a career, they might run into people who don't think they should be there, or people who think they are only there because standards were lowered, etc. Are there times where standards are lowered? Yeah. But is that the case for male and female? Yes. Do we usually talk about it in terms of male and female? No, we generally talk about it in terms of race and sex. And it's because in this world, rage bait sells. Rage bait is the new sex sells. Sex still definitely sells, but what I mean? Half the time online when you're arguing back and forth with somebody, it could be a bot for all you know. It could be an AI driven bot. There are tons of examples out there that talk about dead internet theory. Again, that's, it's a theory, it's a conspiracy, it's whatever. The thing is, you just don't know. And people have a proclivity to say things that are much more impulsive and mean-spirited in an online setting because they have the anonymity of an avatar, as opposed to looking at somebody's face when you're having a discussion and seeing that the words you say can impact them and do often impact somebody. So, this notion that standards are lowered just for females is a really kind of myopic one, and you're cherry picking, right? When you make those assertions and those things. Females are just as capable as men. They're not the same as men. The same as men are not women. And there are certain things that women are going to excel at, the same as there are certain things, especially when it comes to physicality, that men will excel at. It's not about being equal in the sense of being able to do the exact same things. It's about being equal in the sense of respect and understanding that we are each individuals, we are each people on this earth, and therefore we are entitled to a certain level of baseline respect and expectations from one another. The equal outcome thing is never really something that's going to, in my opinion, is never going to land within our societies, both in respect to male and female, because you can't even guarantee equality of outcome within families. Right? Families are vastly different. We make jokes of it, the black sheep of the family, right? The guy that just couldn't become that doctor or lawyer when everyone else is a successful X, Y, and Z. These things happen. These are real world examples. They exist, and they should not be discounted just because the argument is easy to make. I found that, Andrew is an intelligent debater. He is a skillful debater, but he does lean heavily on sort of being hyperbolic in the sense that he uses arguments that appeal to emotionality, as opposed to sticking within the sincerity of generality. And what I mean by that is, they as you could see in the debate when they were talking, they started off and she hit him with a counter to his claim, and he immediately went from there to Navy SEALs, right? Equating Navy SEALs to the general standards he's talking about. You can't do, you really can't. Those two things are not equatable. It's not a mature argument. It's not a sincere argument. It's a way to counter being countered in the world of debate. But watching him and watching this, I understand that maybe they weren't there to have like an honest, rational discussion with each other, right? It wasn't just two buddies sitting having a conversation, but I find that we do that. We argue to be right instead of taking the time to listen where someone's coming from. And I think in the world, if we took more time to try and understand where someone's coming from, it really could evaporate a lot of conflicts. I mean, we have to do it within our relationships. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't always argue to be right, or at least you shouldn't argue to be right. And you should be willing to concede that you're wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times, and it's not easy to say it. I've had to say it to a 10-year-old, last year there was an incident I talked about on the podcast where I thought Olivia was kind of giving some attitude to her mom regarding the hockey bag and the carrying of the hockey bag. And really she was just kind of listening to her dad say, no, don't run around the parking lot. Just wait here. They'll bring your stuff. She didn't relay that to us over the phone, and it really felt like attitude. And so I was very upset by this. And so we brought the bag in, and I said, this is the last time we're doing that for you. And later on that day, I after speaking with Jason, her dad, he kind of filled me in on what was said, and I immediately felt like a bag of ass. And so when we went home, and when Olivia finally came home, I said, hey, Olivia, I got to talk to you for a second. And I said, hey, man, even as adults, we're not always going to get it right. I'm not always going to get it right. And today is one of those days where I did not get it right, and I owe you a sincere apology. And then I explained that I thought she was giving her mom attitude, and I thought that, this was just a dismissal thing. Turns out she was just trying to listen to her father. And I took it a bit too far by thinking one thing without giving her the chance, or the situation a chance to evolve and inform me of what was truly going on. And so I had to apologize. And, it's not easy to apologize at the best times, but it's harder as an adult, I think, to make a sincere apology when you're genuinely wrong to a 10-year-old, right? It's easy to just kind of go, oh, that sucks. I was wrong. Well, we'll ignore it and move on, right? They'll forget about it. We'll move on. But that's not how respect is done, in my view. That's not how love is done, in my view. So I had to understand where she was coming from. And there's times now where I seek clarification on where the other individual is coming from. And I do that with Sheena. I'm not perfect at it. I still screw up, right? And still have to apologize and say things that are wrong. But I do a much better job now at owning if I've shot my mouth off too early, or if I've misconstrued something and assumed that's what they had said, or insinuated that that's what they had said. I've become much better at being able to kind of walk that back prior to it happening, and and avoiding that whole thing. Because I do genuinely care about these people, I like to hear what they have to say. And it's harder online. It's way harder online because you don't know those people for the most part, especially if you're arguing with strangers. You don't know those people. But so it's easy to want to kind of just shoot them down and prove how wrong they are. But that's a lot of energy that we expend doing that, And why? Why do we do that? Because it's ego. That's what it is. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I'm not saying you don't feel passionate about something. I feel passionate about certain things, especially with politics and things like that. I feel passionate about certain things. So I'm not saying it's not about passion, but it really does boil down to ego, to wanting to be right, to wanting them to go, oh yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah. You know what? I shouldn't vote this way because X, Y, and Z. It is ego. The fact is, no matter who they are in your life, they can vote for whoever the hell they want, and it does not make them a bad person. What makes somebody a bad person is by being a bad person, not by voting a certain way. They might have certain views on immigration. That doesn't make them a bad person. It means they have certain views on immigration. Now, I mean, if they have racist views, like truly racist views, I mean, those are bad qualities, right? It doesn't make them a bad person per se, but they have bad qualities. And we all have bad qualities. Every single one of us. None of us are perfect. None of us are altruistic in the truest sense of flawless. We all have the ability to be better. We all have the ability to get better. We just have to open ourselves up to the understanding that we also have the ability to be wrong. And that is the only way to get better, is to understand that you can be wrong. And in many instances in this beginning debate, opening statements between the two, I felt like Andrew was wrong, and that he was arguing from a position of just simply trying to be right, as opposed to a position of listening and having a genuine conversation. Now, she may have been doing that too, but she genuinely stayed much more on track with generalities. She used anecdotes, sure, right? Using her, was it her mother or her grandmother, who she referenced, who was in the military and was a pilot, using anecdotals. But she, I found, did not jump to the extremes the way Andrew did. And after watching that, the whole thing go down, I thought, that is an example of somebody arguing to be right as opposed to listening to understand. And we run into that a lot in this life, where people just argue to be right. And I think our relationships, both with self and with others, would be dramatically improved if we took the time to just listen. If we took the time to listen to ourselves when we're going through things, when we're feeling certain things, when we're experiencing certain things. If we took the time to listen to other people, their thoughts, their views, their feelings, their opinions on certain things. Listening to somebody doesn't mean accepting wholly in what they're saying. It doesn't mean that you're now all of a sudden just going to listen to what they say and go, yep, you know what? I guess I'll have to do that even if I don't want to. It may mean that sometimes. It may mean that, you know what? Hey, I really do need to stop drinking. That's true. I really didn't want to, but they're right. I'm really kind of messing things up here. So it might mean that in certain circumstances, but it doesn't have to mean that. It doesn't have to mean that you take everything somebody says and listen to it at meaning that you take it and do exactly what they want you to do. It just means being respectful right? Being respectful and understanding where somebody's coming from. Because if you understand where somebody's coming from, it's much easier to remain calm, and it's much easier to not get caught up in the trap and that giant spinning Catherine wheel of trying to be right. And then they're trying to be right. And so he's on one side of the wheel and you're on the other, and you're both rolling downhill. So you're both getting beat up. You're both basically sacrificing yourselves. And at the end of the day, you both probably could have agreed that strapping yourselves to a wheel and throwing yourselves down a hill is a terrible idea. Terrible idea. It's a bit of an extreme example, but also I think somebody would have to throw the wheel. Maybe that's social media. Social media is the one throwing the wheel. Going off the rails. Anyway, yeah, I came across a video. I wanted to talk to you guys about it. Plus that whole like monochrome theory blew me away. Anyway, that's my, oh man, before I go, the Lakers, Olivia's hockey team, the Lakers had their first home tournament of the year here in Vernon. And today was the final day of that tournament. And guess what they did? Well, I'll tell you what they did. They brought home the silver medal. And out of all the teams, the U11, U13, U15, I believe out of all the three Vernon teams that were involved, I believe we were the U9, U11, U13, U15. So four Vernon teams in total. Out of the teams that were involved for Vernon, Olivia was the only team. Those Lakers, the U11 Lakers, were the only ones to bring home a medal. So that is pretty sick. It was fun to watch. It was an early morning, so I'm pretty tired. I'm going to go to bed here. But I wanted to come on and share some thoughts about the things that I've seen on the interwebs, and also talk about my book a little bit. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next episode of Unwritten Chapters. Take care, be well, be safe, and above all else, keep talking to each other. Hey, a quick note before we dive in. My new book, Trauma and Tea, Essays on Trauma, Recovery, and Growing Up the Hard Way, lands February 3rd, 2026. It's a collection of essays about trauma, addiction, grief, and the strange dark humor that sneaks in while you're trying to heal. It's also a love letter to growing up in the 90s, when Saturday morning cartoons, mixtapes, video rentals, and streetlights coming on told us that it was time to go home. If this show has ever helped you feel less alone, the book is more of that, only on paper. Pre-orders are available now on Indigo, Barnes & Noble, and wherever else you get your books. Thank you for being here, and now let's get on to the episode.
All we need is a place to be and a few good friends for some company. If you'd like to stay, you don't have to leave. We'll leave the lights on and the door unlocked. If you drop on by, you don't have to knock. We're happy to share whatever we've got.